What's wrong with this new Monster Hunter Wilds gameplay? Doesn't look right, does it? Look at this. You can't sit there and tell me that looks right. Hello again, I am Blunty, and this is the newest trailer for Monster Hunter Wilds, and it looks awesome, right? Teeming with detail and life and vibrancy. But this, the stuff I was just showing you, this is the latest live gameplay from the Monster Hunter dev team that they were just showing at the Tokyo Game Show. There's lots of little details to spot in this, very exciting stuff. Lots and lots of first times seeing stuff and things. However, do you see what I see, especially compared to the trailer? Or rather, do you notice what you don't see? You don't see vibrancy, contrast, saturation. Yeah, so here's the deal with that. Whoever set up the game capture for this event kinda balked it up in a rather newbie embarrassing way that no professional should ever have done. And it is a mistake I've seen in at least 2 other pieces of gameplay capture from this game, from TGS, from other content creators who presumably were using their own stuff, because not every piece of footage I've seen out of the show has this. So let me make some adjustments of my own and show you what I'm talking about here. Oh, isn't that so much nicer? Look once more, just like the trailers, vibrant, crispy, colourful, punchy. The faded, pale, indistinct, grey, washed-out crap that was on the stream is, well, that's what happens when you capture HDR content and don't tone map it properly, and don't process it properly, and then stream it out on a standard SDR video feed. And we know it was because the cameras they had on the stage for the devs themselves looked fine. That's properly done. But the gameplay mixed in with it was not properly done. Now, it's not even slightly surprising that Monster Hunter Wilds has a HDR mode. That's not the breaking news here. Monster Hunter World, released 6 years ago now, can also run in HDR on PC and PlayStation, and probably Xbox too. I haven't actually got a copy for Xbox, I haven't checked, but probably, right? And on a HDR screen, it looks pretty sweet. But if you set it up for HDR and then feed it out to a screen that can't do HDR, yeah, it sucks large, sweaty ones. And the same thing happens if you feed it out to a capture device that isn't set up for HDR. So, for the rest of this video, I'll be showing you the video that I've adjusted myself in my video editor, so it looks better. Now, it's not going to be perfectly representative of what the game will look like on a properly set up screen and console. That's just not how this kind of works, but it's a damn sight closer than the washed out crap they put on their own live stream, thanks to someone's silly mistake in their tech team, who I imagine is bowing deeply in disgrace right now. If anyone around them has a clue of what happened here. Tell you what though, if I was in charge of that thing, I'd be throwing someone under the bus. Because you really do want the game to look its best when you're showing it to thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people across the globe, right? Right. Hey, you know what else I spotted? Despite all the fuss being made right now about the stupidity of their so-called recommended specs for PC being listed as fake 60 FPS, through frame generation up from 30, and 1080p medium settings. And if you want to know why that is a colossally stupid idea, I'll link my own video on it in the down below where I explain in precise detail exactly why it is astonishingly silly and maddening, frankly. Now, of course, it will run at 60 FPS native and even higher on PC with appropriate hardware. The issue is not that. The issue is people are upset that this choice of quote-unquote recommended settings is targeting 30 FPS, upscaled to 60, 1080p, and medium settings. That's not what recommended settings should be for PC. No. Anyway, this gameplay from the live stream is from a PS5 development build, obviously, presumably a newer build than the canned demo they've been letting people play on show floors and cons at events over the last few weeks. And it is actually, very obviously, at least to me, running at 60 FPS, which I can show you and prove to you by slowing it down by 50%. If it was 30 FPS, it'd look really choppy at half speed, wouldn't it? Be 15 frames per second, it'd look awful. But look, still smooth at half speed. That's 60 FPS, and pretty stably 60 FPS. I've done some spot checks here and there, haven't done the whole thing, but everywhere I've scrubbed to on the timeline and I've tabbed through it one frame at a time, it is 60, 60, 60. So that's very promising, isn't it? They didn't say if it was a PS5 Pro, in case you're wondering. I doubt it was, frankly, because otherwise they would have made a much bigger deal out of it, because that would be, I think, the first actual live gameplay we've seen from a PS5 Pro so far, wouldn't it? As opposed to Sony's own canned and carefully prepared video samples. So it is probably quite safe to assume it is a base PS5, albeit a development kit, at 60 FPS, and that's very, very welcome news indeed. And again, it flies in the face of what many believed, and it seems now is confirmed, was a fake image circulating around the internet claiming that 30 FPS was the main target on console. That's obviously not true. I also don't doubt there's probably a 30 FPS mode, so-called a fidelity mode for consoles jammed in there too, for running at a higher, cleaner resolution, but of course sacrificing frame rate, as is so often the case on consoles these days. Also maddening. Now, we have no idea what native resolution this 60 FPS PS5 gameplay is actually running at, and it's quite frankly impossible to even estimate thanks to the murderous intent of internet video compression algorithms destroying any attempt at pixel counting or anything sane like that. But I would wager it was at best 1080p, likely 900 or 840p or something like that, upscaled, especially given what we know they expect even an RTX 4060 to do on PC. But you know what? I will sacrifice resolution before I will frame rate any day of the week for games like this. Easy choice. Upscaled resolution is a lot easier to deal with than fake frames, especially if you're coming up from 30. As I explained in my other video, that is not what frame generation is for. It is ridiculous to use frame generation if you're only getting 30 out. Now, all of that fuss aside, we got a great look at the newly revealed Scarlet Forest area and a few other zones around it as well, from ground level to treetop canopy to little secret spaces where new NPCs hang out, and through the two major environmental states that all the areas with have the grim sort of rainy torrential rain sequence where it's all muddy and grey, and the bright, clear, crystal blue waters of the, not torrential state. Forget what the term they use for it. We'll just call it the time of plenty. We saw some Lalabrina fighting at last. Also, the first footage of a monster that hasn't been seen in a few generations of game that has a lot of people excited because it's one of their favorites. That is Conga Lala. Now, we already knew the farty poop monkey was in the game. We were expecting it because we've seen his armor set in other images and preview stuff so far. But this is the first gameplay of the mushroom chomping big belly fella himself, and he looks awesome. Can't wait to fight him. Take a look at how his fur flows, for instance. I've been noticing this on other footage, especially around player armor, but the fur and cloth physics in this game have taken a noticeable kick up from the previous games. Also, there's several new details in the UI I noticed. I'm not going to drill down to each one of them all individually here. I'm going to wait to break that kind of stuff down when I get to do it myself with the demo. But yeah, for example, notice the icon for paralysis up there. It fills and drains dynamically as you build up or drain off the potential to suffer full paralysis. That's a really nice touch to know exactly where you are with these status effects. Let you know how much more you can risk in the heat of battle. Love that. And I've not really heard anyone else comment on it, but once you start noticing this stuff, you'll see it everywhere. The physics of the cloth and the fur and whatnot is really very high quality in this game. Love that for immersion. And undoubtedly, the richness of the environments is spectacular too, obviously, even through this compressed video. And the feeling of active and dynamic life that this team, who previously worked on Monster Hunter World, were trying to do in that game, are trying to achieve to an even higher level in this game. It was a fun little moment where a little bird landed on a sort of Venus flytrap-inspired plant, and it gobbled up the bird, which was a bit upsetting. I like birds, but, it's the circle of life. And this kind of stuff is something that the most recent title, Rise and Sunbreak, was criticized quite heavily by some people to be rather lacking by comparison. I never much had an issue with it. It's about the gameplay for me. But I will say this. I would much rather have a game with more of this than less of it. I'm not going to ding a game too badly for not having it, but oh yeah, it's lovely when it's there because it really does do magical things for being able to sink into these environments and feel like you're properly exploring and clambering through them. Also, quite fun, looks like fishing is a lot more interactive now with a more sophisticated minigame, at least for larger special catches, I suppose. And given how cooking works in this game, I'm hoping there's even more of a reason than ever to engage with this system. Because quite frankly, I do like my fishing in video games, and with a couple of very special exceptions, there wasn't a lot of reason to do it a hell of a lot in World or Rise, really. So that's fun. I expect we'll be waiting maybe 2-3 more months, maybe, when we get an actual demo we can play for ourselves. Now that we know the release date is the end of February, we can start making some guessworks about when the demo is going to come along. But man, I really do hope they surprise us by bringing it out sooner than I expect, because I can hardly wait to get my own hands on this thing. It looks glorious. Sadly, unlike some of my content creator peers in Europe and the USA and Japan, it seems Capcom just aren't super cool with giving a crap about Aussies. Because unless they're planning it as a big last-minute surprise, they're not even showing it at the largest games-related expo in the entire country of Oz, PAX Australia, which kicks off in just a couple of weeks. Which I'm kind of almost selfishly thankful for, to be honest with you guys, because I can't afford to go to PAX Oz this year. So alongside that disappointment, at least I won't be piling on an additional disappointment of missing out on my first chance to play the convention demo of Monster Hunter Wilds, I suppose. Call it a small mercy on a rough year. I'll take my silver linings where I can get them. Thank you very much. Jeez. Thanks for watching. I'm Bloody. Thank you as always to the patrons scrolling away up above there. And hopefully you appreciated having a more colourful look at this new gameplay. Catch you next time.
ありがとうございます。